don't have a mount or anything like that, so I'm just going to work this way. But I wanted to make a video today about this whole thing that's kind of happening with men and the kind of victim idea that, you know, men have it so tough because we're not unconditionally loved. Yeah, we're not, right? Neither is anyone, right? This idea that women and dogs and children are all unconditionally loved. No. Yeah, maybe so in our culture, there is a higher percentage of people who are unconditionally loved, but globally speaking, that entire thing can't be farther from the truth. You know, you have to realize unconditional love comes from above. It comes from God, and it comes from within. It comes from yourself. You can unconditionally love yourself, right? You can give that to yourself. You know, you give a person a hammer, a nails, wood, a saw, levels, everything they need to build a house. And, you know, the response is, no, sorry, I don't have a house. I can't, I've never had a house. You have everything you need to build a house, build your own house, right? Maybe you didn't have unconditional love in your childhood. I didn't. Maybe you didn't have unconditional love in any of your relationships. I've never had unconditional love in any of my relationships. But this whole idea that that's what's wrong with you as an adult now is that you never received unconditional love as a child, so now your whole world is falling apart. No, man. Don't buy into that. Don't buy into that. Okay? You know, I know this is kind of coming out of left field from what I typically do my recordings and stuff off of. You know, typically it's about religion and stuff like that, but a lot of this kind of stems from that idea. But look, you know, since I have been unconditionally loving myself, my life has been nothing but amazing. Yeah. So I started maybe about 1.5 years ago where I put myself above everybody else. And oh my gosh, the kickback I got. You're so selfish. Everybody was getting mad at me. They were so angry that I decided that I was going to love myself no matter what. And that you know, and here's the thing. Being unconditionally loving to yourself, you have to realize that unconditional love, right? This is where a lot of things are going to fall apart for guys when you realize it. Unconditional means without conditions. That means that there's no condition that it's me versus you. That means that there's no conditions that, you know, that I have to perform well, that I have to have a lot of things, that I have to meet society's expectations. No, unconditional means without conditions, right? So the reality is that you are never, ever, I want you guys to get this. You will never, ever find a person who is going to complete you. I don't understand where this came from. I don't know where this whole thing came from, but you are never going to find a person that completes you. Okay? What does that mean? That means that you are walking into a relationship saying, I am incomplete. I lack on so many levels. I lack emotionally. I lack this. I lack that. And you are the only person on this entire planet that can fill those voids that I have in my life that I refuse to fill. Okay? Now, imagine the amount of pressure that you're putting on that relationship from the get-go, right? From the get-go, you're putting this pressure on the relationship. And what doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, it's any relationship, it's friendships or whatever. I walk away from so many people now because, they tell me, they're like, look, you're so important to my life. You bring me so much happiness. I can't have you leave. And that is just the biggest push away. That is the biggest push away for me, because that puts unnecessary pressure on me to stay. And I don't love anybody as much as I love myself, right? I try to be as unconditionally loving of everybody that I can be, but I am unconditionally respectful of myself and my desires and my wants and the things that I want in my life, okay? So this whole thing, I saw another video on it today, and it just ticks me every single time that I hear it, because it's this narrative that's being fed that, you girls are so lucky because you get unconditional love from your fathers. You get unconditional love from the men in your life. They don't get unconditional love from the men in their life. One of the conditions that men love women is that men, or one of the conditions that we place on a relationship that we feel we're offering unconditional love. Hey, look, I'm not shooting at you. I was the same way. I used to think that I unconditionally loved my ex-wife, right? Here's the thing. If, not to get all gross about it, but if my ex-wife, I'm a straight man, okay? If my ex-wife had a penis, I would not love her to the extent that I loved her, okay? That's my point. That's all I'm trying to say. If she was a man, I wouldn't love her to that extent, right? The condition that I loved her so intensely was that, 1, she didn't cheat on me. 2, she was a female. 3, I felt relatively connected to her and was willing to commit to her, right? Because you come across so many females in your life already, but you don't unconditionally love any of those females. You only unconditionally love one person, which is already a condition in and of itself. This whole idea just needs to stop, okay? But it's nice that it's brought up to the light, because the reality is that we should be unconditionally loving ourselves first, okay? Men and women alike. No one gets unconditional love. No one gets unconditional love. It's only something that you can give to yourself, right? You can choose to love yourself no matter what. That is your choice. But men's minds, and females' minds too, it's not just men. Human minds in general, especially in the society that we grew up, are taught to be self-critical, to be self-hateful, to always strive for something better than yourself. So you're taught every step of the way, you need to be better. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You walk around society and you have, a whole bunch of advertisements popping up on the screen. You are not full unless you buy my watch. You are not full unless you buy my fancy car. You are not complete unless you have this nicer house, right? All of this stuff stems from this idea that we are not complete, that we need something outside of us to make us complete. That needs to stop. That really needs to stop. And I love you guys so much. Every time I see somebody who's just going through the ringer, I've got nothing but compassion for them, because I've been there. I've been there, man. I've been right there with y'all in the trenches, right? Of self-hatred, of all that stuff. Here's the thing. Once you love yourself, you start to realize and you accept yourself, you accept who you are, you accept where you are, you accept the family you were born into, you accept the circumstances that you're in right this second. When you accept all of that, you know what happens? You start to realize how many things are not actually that important, right? You start to realize, having a fancy watch really isn't that big of a deal. Having an insane amount of money in a bank account really isn't that big of a deal. Having a nice car really isn't that big of a deal, right? Because why do we buy those things? We buy those things because typically, not in every circumstance, but typically, we want to try to impress others, or we want to try to impress society. Look at me, look at what I have. This is why I belong. This is why I'm worthy. Throw all that crap out. Now, look, if you enjoy Swiss watches and you love a good Rolex, then buy a Rolex. If you're living in your tiny apartment and you're driving a really, really small car and you love Rolexes, then save up and buy a Rolex. Like, just, if you want to drive a Porsche, but you have a really low income job, okay, so save up, buy a Porsche. Who cares? This is your life, this is your experience, right? Live it. Don't allow anybody to come in and say, hey, I would love you, but this is all the stuff that I see wrong with you. Guess what? Cool. Well, I don't care, because I love myself anyways, and I accept myself anyways. I accept myself with my extra little, 15, 20 pounds of fat on me. I love that about me. I'm looking thick, Just accept everything about you. Love absolutely everything about you. This whole thing to me is just, it's something that really gets me, and I feel bad for so many guys because they just allow themselves to just kind of dwell in this victim mentality that, oh my God, get up, guys. Love yourselves, okay? And I'm saying guys, but I refer to both men and women as guys. They're all just guys. I guess that is weird. When did that start? I don't know. Probably childhood. But seriously, guys, just there I go again. All right, I'll see y'all later.